What is up, Nuggets? It's your boy, Killer Pizza, here with a brand new video for you rascals and rapscallions out there. It is the final weekend of October, 2 days until Halloween. I think it's absolutely crazy that the month of October has gone by this fast, but, you know, it's one of the best times of year. I absolutely love the fall season. Everybody gets in the spirit of Halloween, so I hope everyone out there has been doing some fun stuff for the season, watch some good horror movies, because October is one of the very best months of releases when it comes to like horror movies on physical media. And I have a lot of really good titles I'm excited to show you guys, but I'm going to have to wait and put off the video until next Sunday because I have one title arriving late Wednesday that I think I really need to include. So anyways, I thought I would just make this video. As you could tell from the title, we're going to talk about 1978's Dawn of the Dead. And speaking of traditions on Halloween, every single year, me and my best friend Nick Baker, one half of the IWE Tag Team Champions, one half of the Cream Street Mafia, we always head out to check out a movie. Like I said, the last weekend of October, usually a classic, cult classic horror film. And this year was 1978's Dawn of the Dead. So I actually seen this movie in theaters last night, and I thought, if I'm not going to do this update video, this would be a fun video to make. Like I said, no review here. I just want to talk about the film and how much I love it. It's definitely in my top 5, maybe if not my top 3 favorite horror movies of all time. I can make a list if you guys ever want me to do my top 10, top 20 favorites ever, but I absolutely adore this movie, and anytime I get a chance to see a classic like this in the theaters, it's an absolute treat. And it didn't disappoint. The only thing that disappointed was my friend Nick passed out and slept through the whole damn movie, and he's never seen this film before. And it's like, man, you know, that sucks. You know, I want to talk about it with somebody that's seen it for the first time, but I enjoyed every aspect about it. So, I mean, anyways, let me just talk about the movie a little bit. We all know this film. I'm sure you do if you're watching this. If you've never seen Dawn of the Dead, 78, you know, and you're watching this, go check it out and come back to this video, obviously. But 78's Dawn of the Dead, which this is a very badass release. I'm trying to think of the label. It's fucking Second Sight, slipping my mind. I don't have the big copy, but this is the Second Sight with the 4 discs. I believe 3 different cuts. Beautiful release. I was planning on watching this anyways for Halloween before it was all over, but this is the second film in George Romero's Dead series. You know, we had Night of the Living Dead in the 60s, Dawn of the Dead 78, and then Day of the Dead, I believe, what, 73, 74? Correct me if I'm wrong. I think so, or 84, I think. Could be wrong, but this one's got to be my favorite, and, you know, it's just the classic trope of, like, survival and finding, like, shelter and everything that we've all grown to love, but this is the first one that brought up, like, hiding in the shopping mall and everything, which was a very popular thing. And I just love this film because I was explaining to my friend, like, the way this is all formatted in the trilogies, like Night of the Living Dead, obviously, nobody knows what's going on, the outbreak is just starting. And then Dawn of the Dead is, you know, chaos in the air, we know what's going on, the dead bodies are reanimated, the army's called in, and people are just losing their shit and they don't know where to go with it. And then Day of the Dead is, you know, an army bunker with all the dudes down, with the scientists and last survivors trying to find, like, a cure for the cause. So each movie has, like, an element of, like, intrigue. Like the first one, what's going on, you know, chaos, confusion. Day of the Dead is a little slower, but a little more, like, methodical in the thought process of everything, and just, like, the characters of just, like, they think it's, you know, Day of the Dead, their final days. Where I think where Dawn of the Dead hits that groove is the middle part, where people have that confusion, where they're looking to be ambitious and escape, and there's still a cloud of mystery, though they're figuring out what's going on. And I know that I did a really bad job of describing all that just now, but I absolutely love this film. The characters are amazing in this, and I think that's also one of my favorite parts about this film that makes this so great is the characters, because we have 4 main characters, and each one of them kind of have a certain kind of development where everybody has a strength that can either get them in trouble or get them out of a bad situation. But I think this movie is based a lot on, like, the flaws of people and how they overcome stuff and have, like, the character development to make them better or ultimately to their demise. Like Galen Ross, for example, you know, she's the pregnant girl, the news reporter or whatever, and she ends up finding strength in her weakness of, like, she doesn't want to be left out as the only female. She wants a voice in the decision. She ends up learning how to fly the helicopter and everything. Flyboy was an absolutely, he meant well, but he just was a goof. You know what I mean? Almost shooting Peter with the shotgun earlier, and he just doesn't know his own bounds in a lot of ways, and he's kind of, a little squirrely guy, if that makes sense, the Midwestern term right there. But he ends up getting the most satisfying like character development when he becomes like just one of the guys, a part of the team, very important member. And then obviously with Scott Reiner's character Roger, like one of the saddest things, his courage and everything is what ultimately comes to his demise. But even in defeat, he knows, as hurt as he is, you better keep me going because you guys are going to need me. And then obviously Peter, maybe one of the best characters in the whole movie. Like he's more dealing with the mortality of the death and the situation through the whole film. And everybody kind of has a connection to another character out of the four, and it develops through the whole film. So honestly, a lot of it is the characters themselves. That's the biggest charm to me for this movie. I had the pleasure of meeting almost the full cast back a year ago. Not this past Motor City Nightmares, but the year before. So, I mean, right here, a picture of me with Tom Savini. And it was fun meeting him. He was kind of an asshole, I won't lie. My friend Ben agrees. He was kind of a prick, but nice to meet the guy. My favorite practical effects worker ever. Tom Savini did all the work in this film. He actually has a starring role at the end as one of the bikers, and the whole debacle at the end and everything. But yeah, kind of a dick, Tom Savini is. And right here, Galen Ross, I met her right after, and it was like right after the fact. I was like, man, I was totally taken out of the game after I talked to Tom Savini. If you want to hear me talk more about my experience with Tom Savini, I will. But Galen Ross, an absolute sweetheart, and I'll tell you what, she's looking good to this day, better than she did back then, even then, and she was so nice, so kind, and everything. Took a photo with me, gave me the autograph, whatnot, and then I'm going from worst to best, because then I met Ken Foray right here, another great guy. And he was absolutely amazing, man. There was like some photographer that came up when I was meeting him and kind of like had him distracted, which I thought was kind of bogue of the photographer, but it is what it is. I remember making a joke to Ken. I said, out of everybody that had a chance against Leatherface, you kind of kicked his ass the most. But, and he got a big kick out of that because, that's one of the worst Texas Chainsaw movies. But Ken Foray's role in that one, The Next Generation, he does kind of whoop Leatherface's ass. He walks out of the booth, take a photo with me, says I would have had him too, but he fought dirty, and he had everyone chuckling. He was great. I went to the panel and everything, the Q&A earlier, and Ken was the star of the show. A great entertainer, great guy. But my absolute favorite person I met when I met the cast of Dawn of the Dead, which I'm glad I'm telling this story, and this is kind of a purpose of me wanting to talk about this, not like a review, more of my experience at the theater, and I figured I could talk about the time I met the cast, because I did that like in a collection video, like what I picked up from the convention that year. And I don't think a lot of people maybe have heard me speak about this, but when I met Scott Reiner right here, this is one of the greatest experiences I've ever had meeting a celebrity at a show ever. I mean, I wouldn't say he was looking bad, but age took over a bit. He was in a wheelchair, and COVID was still a thing. He had the mask on. And I remember seeing him out at the smoking area earlier, and I almost said something. I'm like, let him just have his time. And when I finally met him, I walked up to him, and this is I'm going to tell you guys about this obviously right now too, that like I explained to him my love for Dawn of the Dead. And I meant this with all my heart, man. I told him, I said, when I was a little kid, I grew up like a little lower class, government housing. Like I didn't have like a bad childhood, but like when it was bad, it was bad. You know what I mean? So I kind of escaped in the video store with movies like this or pro wrestling tapes. Like it was like my way on the weekend I could get away from everything as a kid. And I told him, I said, when I was a kid, I watched this. And you and Ken, I couldn't relate to the 6'5" black guy. I related to the shorter little white guy as a kid. And I told him, what I loved with his character was that he had courage and strength, and he was brave, and like he was always willing to go for it and fight. And I said, as a kid, this was a comfort movie to me. I would put it on, and if things were wrong, I told Scott, I said, I seen myself in you and thought, if he can do it, if he can be brave, I can be brave. And I swear, his eyes started watering up, and it got me emotional, man. You guys, I ain't lying. Then I said, thank you, everything. Got my autograph after the photo, and I said, thank you so much, a pleasure. Shook his hand, and I'm not bullshitting you guys. When I shook his hand, I could feel like an energy, like the Mega Power is shaking hands. I felt something, and I looked him in the eyes, and I teared up a little bit, and it like meant so much to me. And like I shook his hand, went to walk out. And I was like, I got to step outside. I went to walk out with my friend Cody, Draven O'Shawn's for any wrestling fans, and he whispers to me. I was like, whoa. He goes, what the fuck just happened? I said, what do you mean? He goes, it looked like he was about to start crying. I said, I felt like I was going to start crying. And just like, that's the most satisfying thing I've ever had meeting a celebrity. Just how much he appreciated me thanking him for that, which everyone in this movie, the entire cast, George Romero, you know. And I got a really cool poster signed right here. I got the 4 autographs on there. That's in my movie room down in the basement. So one of my most prized possessions. I just wish I could have met George Romero, but I don't know, man. You guys, this movie is one that just means a lot to me. I absolutely love this film. It's just like, it's a comfort movie. You know what I mean? It's just, it's got the right pacing and just, it's got the right charm to it. And it's kind of the blueprint of like, how you can make the isolation aspect kind of bigger and like make it more of a different story. And just like the characters and the messages that George Romero would put into his films, any of his films, especially, you know, the Dead films, the first 3, obviously, especially, just like so much heart and thought put into it. You know, that's why we got to, you know, hold directors like that close to our hearts to this day, man. Just this film, you know, and I could go on and on about it, but I don't want to ruin the video. I think I said enough. I think I did it justice. You know, obviously the soundtrack with a lot of music from Goblin, Tom Savini's makeup effects, just like each act has something. The first, second, and third, and it's damn near a perfect movie. Like, the only arguments you could make against this film is that it's a bit slow. And it's like, it's from 1978. All movies back then are slow, but it starts hot, it ends hot, and it's got so much packed in the middle, and I'm going to miss so much that I'm speaking of, you know. I guess what I'll get to here to end the video, because it just popped in my head, is this the greatest zombie movie ever made? Though it's not my favorite zombie movie, my favorite zombie movie, my favorite horror movie of all time is Return of the Living Dead. But with that being said, I think this is the best zombie movie ever made. This is absolute perfection, and I love it. It's a movie I cherish. Yeah, I know I didn't say much about it in this review. I just rambled on and talked about it, and maybe I'll make another video talking about it because I love this movie, Dawn of the Dead. If you've never seen it, check it out, man. It rules. Let me know, guys. Oh, and I'll say one more thing. So let me give another comment about seeing it in the theaters, actually. I should include this. My favorite thing about this movie in the theaters was that everything seemed bigger. So, for one, the soundtrack, surround sound was great. But my favorite moment was one of my least favorite moments in the movie when Roger gets killed by Peter when he sits up, because they make direct eye contact with the camera in that slow, tense scene on the big screen. That was probably visually the most badass part, you know. But it was an honor to see it in the theater, you know. Fucking badass. I love this movie. Like I said, leave a comment. Tell me what your favorite part is in this movie. Let me know what your favorite zombie movie is. And other than that, Blood Guts Gore. I'll check you guys next time.